Hi everyone, I'm joined by Katie Plumridge from Defra, who is one of the policy leads on the Southern North Sea and Channel Skates and Rays Fisheries Management Plan. Katie is going to be answering some questions which may help you complete the consultation for the FMP, which is currently open until the 19th of January 2025. Hi Katie, thanks for coming along today. First of all, what species does this FMP cover and for which ICES areas?
Thanks, Anna. So this is the Southern North Sea and Channel Skates and Rays FMP, and it covers 7 species of rays in the English waters or in ICES divisions 4B, which is Central North Sea, 4C, which is Southern North Sea, 7D, which is the Eastern English Channel, and then 7E, which is the Western English Channel. And the species within this area that it covers are thornback ray, blonde ray, undulate ray, small-eyed ray, spotted ray, cuckoo ray, and starry ray.
And could you tell us why we need an FMP for skates and rays when they're generally considered a stable and reliable stock?
So skates and rays are long-lived and slow-growing, which makes them late to mature between 5 and 10 years, which means that they're at potential risk of overexploitation. There is also wider social and economic importance of the stocks and their associated fisheries. There are also a few existing management measures in place for some of the species within the FMP. However, they're not widespread across all the relevant species or areas covered by this FMP. And so this FMP sets out to consider their use and suitability a bit more widely. And then also there's a variety of data quality amongst the different species covered in the FMP, including some data limited stocks. And so this FMP proposes to build the evidence base here.
And how will the minimum and maximum lengths be decided? And will these be harmonised with the existing IFCA lengths?
Yeah. So for those who haven't yet read the FMP, here we're referring to the proposed management measure within the FMP around considering a minimum and maximum conservation reference sizes. So whether these should be introduced or expanded and what the potential minimum and maximum lengths should be is a really important question and is one we're asking as part of the FMP consultation process. So in its current draft, the measures are initially about evidence gathering to determine the most appropriate sizes before considering any implementation of such a measure. So as part of the FMP, we're also considering the best approach to do this, which will be informed by a commissioned demographic modelling exercise. So for example, this could be a universal MCRS or a species-specific MCRS, whichever is deemed more appropriate. And then similar considerations apply to determining the approach to a potential maximum conservation reference size or sizes. So within this, we'll also need to consider the trade-offs between increasing the minimum size versus introducing a maximum size. So within the consultation questions, we have a specific question on the MCRS where we're asking, firstly, if you would support the introduction of an MCRS, and then specifically more on your opinions on what you think appropriate reference sizes could be, any species or stocks that you think could be of most, that would benefit most from an MCRS, and then also the location where an MCRS would be most beneficial. So this could be all of the FMP area or specific areas within the FMP. So yeah, I would really invite your input into that to help shape this measure as it goes forward. It's also worth pointing to the FMP evidence statement as well, where additional information on the potential sizes of the MCRS for FMP species have been plotted against the length, frequency, discard and retention data, which you might find helpful to refer to. So in terms of harmonising with existing IFCA lengths, Kent and Essex IFCA bylaws stipulate an MCRS of 40 centimetres for the whole skates and rays or 19 centimetres for detached wings. And Southern IFCA bylaws stipulate an MCRS of 40 centimetres or 20 centimetres for detached wings. So a potential option here within the FMP could be to explore to consider implementing these measures consistent with these IFCA bylaws more widely.
And will we be getting separate tax for each skate and ray species?
Yeah, so the majority of skates and race species are currently managed via group tax, and we're aware this current group tax management might not be an ideal way to manage these stocks, and that this current approach might not provide sufficient protection to those more vulnerable stocks that are covered by these group tax. And this is also identified as a concern within the IC's advice sheets themselves. So because of this, one of the management measures in the FMP is to look at alternatives to this current approach. As these are jointly managed stocks with the EU, we currently have an ongoing work stream through the Specialised Committee on Fisheries to look into alternative approaches to this current group TAC management. And the FMP sets out to explore this ongoing work. I guess just worth mentioning that as these are shared stocks, any change to the way that the skates and race tax are managed should be done collaboratively with the EU to be the most effective. So we're aware this is a complex issue, and so the FMP sets out to explore any potential alternative options to the current group tax management for skates and rays. This could include species-specific tax, but then also looking into other options and to consider the benefits and implication of those different options.
Can this FMP be used to acquire quota for small-eyed ray in 7E?
So in short, not at the moment. Small-eyed ray in 7E is data limited, and we don't know much about the state of the stock. Currently, there's a non-retention regulation in place, meaning it can't be landed. However, anecdotal evidence from both commercial and recreational fisheries has suggested there is an abundance of small-eyed ray in 7E. The UK and EU agreed for 2024 to lift the non-retention regulation only for those vessels taking part in a sentinel fishery, and this will continue into 2025. And the FMP supports establishing this sentinel fishery in the short term, and then dependent on the outcome of monitoring this fishery, it will consider reopening the fishery in the medium term, if that's what the scientific outcomes support.
And how does the environmental report that was produced for this FMP feed into the actions?
So yeah, the draft FMP includes goals and actions that will ensure that the environmental impacts of the skates and rays fishery are captured and further understood. For example, the skates and rays fishery has an impact on the wider marine environment, primarily through seabed disturbance from mobile demersal gears. And so we have included in the FMP a specific action on better understanding the impact of these fishing gear interactions with the marine environment in the skates and ray fisheries. And within this, we will look into mapping and defining the demersal gear and benthos interactions. Other environmental considerations such as climate change, water pollution and such are concerns that affect all marine species, not just skates and rays, and these are addressed in a coordinated manner by the government initiatives through all of the FMPs and specific environmental legislation.
One of the proposed management measures is for sector support. What can we expect from this?
So one of the main purposes of this measure is that reports suggest that there is a low market interest in ray landings compared to other species. So alongside the suite of other management recommendations within this FMP, which work to enhance sustainability in the fishery, work to understand what else can be done to improve markets should also be undertaken. Whilst this measure is a non-statutory requirement, meaning the associated actions and measures go beyond the legal obligations for the FMPs in Section 6 of the Act, we still really welcome industry support towards delivering this measure.
And how will the FMPs afford to fund, well, specifically this FMP, afford to fund the evidence gathering aspects during the coming budget restrictions on government?
Yeah, so this is an issue that is being considered by the government for all of the FMPs. We recognise that budgets may not be sufficient for all the scientific initiatives that we would like to do, and there is always a need to prioritise. And so, yeah, I guess as an outcome of the consultation, we're kind of seeking views on what should be prioritised. So, yeah, and we'll also be seeking to work with industry and share existing data where such exists.
When can we realistically expect actions from this FMP to be implemented?
Yeah, so like all FMPs, the Southern North Sea and Channel Skates and Rays FMP is an iterative plan, meaning we can't do everything at once. Some actions are short term, like developing and distributing the voluntary guidelines, which can be delivered, depending on the consultation outcome, within 1 to 2 years after the publication of the FMP. Other actions are longer term, as we don't have at this stage the evidence that we need to be able to progress them. For example, evidence gathering to assess the effectiveness of potential area and spatial closures as a means for protecting skates and rays during critical life stages.
And when completing the consultation, should we be looking at the original FMP document or just the documents released with the consultation?
Yeah, so there are several documents on the consultation website, which you can see on the screen here, but these are the consultation letter, the consultation document, the draft Skates and Rays FMP itself, the environmental report, the engagement report, the impact assessment, the SNCB advice, and the FMP privacy notice. So of these documents, I would say read the consultation document as a starting point, and this will give you a summary of the FMP and help you focus on the questions that we're asking. And then if you feel you need a bit more detail of what we're actually proposing, then you could read the draft, so the proposed FMP, which is our draft FMP that we're consulting on. This will give you a bit more detail. And then there's also the engagement report. This tells you about what stakeholders said during the development of the FMP. These comments were captured and have shaped how the development of the version of the FMP that we're now consulting on. The SNCB advice gives a summary of the environmental impact of the Skates and Rays fishery. And then for more details on that, you can read the environmental report as well. And then to answer the consultation questions, you can either do so through the online survey, which is on Citizen Space, or you can email your views to fmpconsultations@defra.gov.uk. Alternatively, you can write to us at consultation, Southern North Sea and Channel Skates and Rays FMP, FMP team, Marine Fisheries, Seacoal Building, 2 Marsham Street, London, SW1P 4DF. And yeah, just to finish with, we'd really value your views on everything I've covered today and everything on the FMP consultation pages. Yeah, and here you can find out more about all the details that you need to do this. Thanks very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Katie.